Hello and welcome to Tea Time. We're at the 18-hole signature Greg Normal built golf course, JP Greens at Greater Noida, and I'm Chaiti Narula. Now, years ago, there was a man called Alok Sriram. He started off at a monthly salary of 25 rupees at a small little shop in Chandni Chowk. From then on, he started saving on for an entrepreneurial venture, which today is called DCM Sriram. Years later, joins me his great-grandson, Alok Sriram, on Tea Time.
On the show this week, we have Alok Sriram, Deputy MD, DCM Sriram Industries.
My grandfather used to have a saying that always give your customer a few extra inches of fabric and not less than a yard. And we believe in that.
In news, Patrick Reed wins Wyndham Championship, his first title, beating Jordan Spieth. And Europe wins Solheim Cup in America for the first time.
Lovely tee off.
Thanks.
Welcome to Tea Time, Alok.
Thanks.
Such a pleasure to have you on the show. Let's talk about how the lineage has been in the family.
Sriram had 3 sons.
Right.
The eldest was my grandfather, who
Yes.
used to run our textile mills in Layalpur, which is now Faisalabad in Pakistan.
Right.
And the other 2 sons were Dr. Bharatram and Dr. Charatram. And of course, my grandfather died in 1950. And subsequently, Dr. Bharatram took the helm of the company along with Dr. Charatram. That was the erstwhile DCM.
Right.
And along with his cousins, my father, Mr. Bansidhar, started working in DCM, I think, in 1960.
Right.
Subsequently, he handled a lot of the sugar and chemical businesses. And in 1990, of course, the number of people in the family were quite a lot. A lot of the my generation youngsters had come into the business, and also the number of manufacturing units were large and they were quite diverse. So for the betterment of the business and for growth, we decided that it would be advisable for the business to break up. And from 1988 to 1990, the family actually took all the steps necessary to break the business up into 4 individual entities.
Right.
One of those entities is DCM Sriram Industries.
Interesting.
And my father died a few years ago, and since then my elder brother Tilakdhar, and he is our chairman, I am the deputy managing director, and my younger brother Mr. Madhav Sriram is the whole-time director. We also have a professional board, and our businesses span sugar, textiles, alcohol, chemical, industrial fibers, and power. So it's, again, like all business houses, quite diverse. But we believe that that diversity allows us a lot of opportunities and also the financial ability to manage ups and downs in cyclical businesses like sugar.
Is there a lot of values that trickle down from the top, from the times of your great-grandfather, in the manner in which you conduct your business?
Yes, I think so. My grandfather used to have a saying that always give your customer a few extra inches of fabric and not less than a yard. And we believe in that. Also, I think in our dealing with the government, generally we have a very good response from them because they believe that when we tell them something, it will not be flippant or evasive or not correct. So there is a lot of trust there also.
There's a lot of respect that your family commands as well, socially.
Yes.
All right, on that note, it's time for me to tee off. We'll continue our conversation. Thank you. So, Alok Sriram, what has been your tryst with business on the course?
Not so much, but it does give us a great opportunity to meet a lot of different people from all walks of life. It gives us different perspectives, this gives us different contacts. makes new friends, and generally good friends, because you can't cheat too much on the golf course.
Absolutely not,
So-
because the way you play your golf also defines how the way you conduct your
That's
business
correct.
as well.
That's
You can't really put up such a false impression, even being a CEO of a normal company, or even, you know,
Yeah,
even if you're with your
it's-
family business, of course.
That's why they call it a pure game, because by the time you finish 3 or 4 hours on the golf course with someone,
Right.
you get a good feel of what a person's all about.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things that attracts me to this game.
Give me some few instances when you have played with people who are not very good with their game in terms of being fair.
Well, let me put it differently.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of instances where I met someone and I didn't think he would be much of a player.
Right.
And, I'd ask the starter and say, look, is he okay? And he'd say, yeah, he doesn't play badly. Have a round with him. And he would beat my pants off.
Oh, really?
So I've had a couple of instances like that. And I think it teaches you that you can't take someone at face value when you meet them. Many of us make an impression just by a person's looks, how well he's
Absolutely.
dressed
And,
up, or
I mean, the old adage
you know.
goes, the looks are deceptive.
looks are deceptive. So I think you learn a lot, and you learn a lot of humility, because the day you think you've mastered this game, the next day the course comes and kicks you in the teeth and tells you who's boss.
Would you ever conduct business with somebody who cheats on a golf course?
I guess.
You would?
But I'd be cautious.
Okay.
I would be cautious, and it would give me a little inside information on
Give
how
you
the person
a bit
works.
of a lead on how that person really is.
Yes,
to work
exactly.
with, isn't it?
So I don't think you can necessarily choose who you do business with, but it would be nice to be careful.
Now in the days of controlled economy,
Mm-hmm.
DCM was to Delhi what Tata Sons was to Bombay.
Mm-hmm.
But the past few decades, in fact, have not really been kind to DCM as such. You've had a bit of fraternal disputes. You've also had a hostile bid takeover from
That's
Lord
correct.
Paul in 1980s as well. You have had your fair bit of internal wrangling as well.
Yes.
How do you view DCM today?
Well, if you take the DCM in its overall context, all the 4 companies, I think the groups have done quite well. Each one has grown at a different pace, and I think the fact that we divided the business without too much dispute or acrimony, we are still extremely close to each other. We, as a matter of fact, in my generation, all the younger family goes every alternate year. We go for a retreat for 2 or 3 days. Not only the men, but the ladies also. Our wives go for their own retreat. I think it's made the family relationships a lot better. Each business has grown on its own without having to be drawn down on by another business. So on the whole, I think it's been good. We did lose out, as you said, about 2 or 3 decades where we were somewhat lower in the rankings than we were at our peak. At our peak, we were, I think, the 5th largest business house in India.
Absolutely.
And in some cases, I think we got into some of the business before their time. Computer business. We got into the computer business in 1970s, early 70s.
Right.
And we were actually the only competitor to IBM. So maybe we got in there before our time. And at that time, everyone was into manufacturing, so we were very much into hardware. Of course, now information technology is all about software and developing companies like TCS and
Right,
Infosys.
right.
So we were, I think, before our time in that. So we lost out being too early.
Right.
As a group, we are manufacturers. We are not into short-term businesses. We are not into speculative businesses. And that's how we have, at least up to my generation, we have dealt with. I cannot say for the next generation, maybe they will be speculative in nature. They may go for shorter-term businesses. But we do try and teach our children the same values that we grew up with. Honest business, give the extra few inches, respect your seniors and elders. Once you say something, you can't retract it. And that's something I think youngsters today need to learn. They tend to react too fast. And in business in India, especially when you're dealing with a lot of senior people very often, you have to be a little cautious about how you say things and what you say.
True.
And that's something that we hope we are passing on.
That's actually something, you have business in your genes. Rather, I would put it that way. It always goes in handy and a long way. Well, on that note, it's good time now for us to take a break on Tea Time. On the other side of this break, we will remain in conversation with the Deputy Managing Director of DCM Sriram, which is Alok Sriram, and we will throw some light on their businesses and, of course, his role with the PhD Chamber of Commerce as well. welcome back. We're in discussion with Mr. Alok Sriram of DCM Sriram. Now, you have many businesses. You've got alcohol, sugar, power cogeneration, rayon, chemical, what have you. What next at DCM?
What next? I think in the present situation in the economy and what's happening globally,
Right.
we're just trying to make our existing businesses much more stable
Right.
and making them grow organically.
Right.
Also in sugar in UP, we do have a problem with the present situation of the
Volatility in the raw material prices as well?
well, the upward movement in raw material prices and the low finished product prices.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's something which is out of our control.
Yes.
We are trying our best to diversify the portfolio and reduce our dependence on pure sugar.
True.
So that's, I think, where we are. We also believe that in the present sugar situation, maybe in another year or so, we will find buying opportunities. So that may be one place where we would like to go is to pick up some new assets which will come up onto the market by the end of this year or early next year.
You're also kind of exposing yourself more to pharmaceutical intermediaries, chemical and rayon as
That's
well.
right.
What are the reasons for doing this?
The main reason is that sugar in UP as it stands is always going to be caught in a bind between cane price increase to the farmers and the desire of the government to keep sugar prices down.
Right.
So the only way to do that is to reduce our dependence on sugar itself, make more of the byproducts, which is essentially power and alcohol. And our chemical businesses and the rayon business is throwing up opportunities, especially in the global market, to get more active and pick up a reasonable share. So we believe that that's the way to go for us.
Now, Mr. Sriram, the industry, apart from being vulnerable and cyclical, is also very vulnerable to the government regulation as well, by the virtue of it being so important on the wholesale price index as well. Is there any kind of deregulation that you would recommend in sugar? And would you have any suggestions for the government as well on this front?
Well, I think the government set up the Rangarajan committee, which gave a very good and comprehensive report.
Right.
The problem is that some of the actions the central government could take, they have already taken in terms of deregulation and of the release system and of allowing some of the other aspects. But there are certain aspects which have to be taken care of by state governments. Maharashtra, South Indian sugar producing states already have those in place. It is really UP, which is one of the largest sugar producers in India, does not have that in place, which is essentially deregulation on the cane side.
Right.
Whether it is the price of cane, it has no linkage to the actual produce and the quality of the cane. So that is really where the UP sugar industry is hurt. And also there is a lot of regulation on the movement of molasses and alcohol being a state subject.
Right.
So they have to look at some way of releasing the industry from that.
Now, your company is undertaking various programs around the Sriram manufacturing units as well for the rural development as well.
Yes.
Your quest for rural development at DCM Sriram. Let's talk a little more about your corporate social responsibility.
The sugar business started about 70 years ago when we actually transplanted a mill from the Nepal border and brought it to where it stands today. The biggest thing in the sugar business is actually cane development. And cane development means developing the farmlands, developing villages. So we have had a real old history of developing cane, developing the villages around our sugar plants, which essentially gives us much better cane. So it's a purely, let's say, selfish motive, if I can. But we have gone into those houses and we have created roads in our rural areas. We have created biogas plants which service houses, so the housewives have a better deal. We have created clinics, we have created schools, and all these, while we say social responsibility, but I think there is certainly a selfish motive in that the local population is improving its quality of life. They are getting better education, you're getting a better talent pool near your plants, you're getting better inputs, and ultimately I think you're getting better citizens. So we have certainly believed in doing corporate social responsibility way before this word became sort of fashionable.
Alright, so good time now for us to take a breather on tea time. Let's take a quick break. We will return on the other side and remain in conversation with Alok Sriram of DCM Sriram and talk a little more about his business. So welcome back. We're still in conversation with Alok Sriram of DCM Sriram. Now Alok, we were talking about the rayon business offline as well.
Yes.
It started off as something which was a small player in that segment to what it is today as being one of the top four players globally.
Yeah.
How did that transformation come into the rayon business?
You know, the rayon business, rayon came in as a miracle fiber as a replacement for cotton in the 50s. And in the 60s, it came as a replacement for cotton tire cord. And so we set up this plant in the early 60s with an American collaboration.
True.
And they wanted to replace tire cord in India. After we studied everything, we found that there is a global market for it. It's a small niche market which goes into the highest class of tires, the HVZ class tires, which go into, let's say, Mercedes-Benz and BMWs and sports cars. And we worked very hard to transform this small Indian player in the tire cord business, which was actually dying out, into something that worked with all the global markets. And I'm happy to say that after all these years and all our effort, we are considered one of the better suppliers out of the 4 global players. And we supply to all the tire giants like Goodyear, Pirelli, Bridgestone and Continental and Michelin. So there is no one we have really left out. And we supply into Europe, we supply into Africa, America.
And you own 25% of the market share globally right now in that business.
Yes, somewhere
as well.
between 20 and 25%.
There are just 4 players globally manufacturing rayon.
2 of us are in India and 2 of us are in Europe.
Do you foresee more players coming into this business globally as well?
No,
Since
I
there is
don't.
so much potential, why isn't anybody tapping into this?
Well, the reason is it's a small business.
True.
And it's an extremely capital intensive business. The raw materials are scarce. It is has a lot of effluent which needs to be treated. And it takes 2 to 3 years at least to get the approvals from customers.
True.
So no one can invest in a capital intensive business and then make a sample and wait 3 to 4 years.
True.
So I don't see anyone else coming as long as we, the 4 of us as we stand, satisfy the market, which we are doing.
True.
We run at about 80% capacity utilization, so there is enough slack that if anyone wants more, we can certainly give it to them.
You found yourself in a new avatar now as heading the PhD Chamber of Commerce as well, based on their research-based policy advocacy role as well.
Yes.
Tell us more about what you're doing with PhD Chamber of Commerce.
See, PhD Chamber is one of the oldest chambers in the country. As a matter of fact, I think it's about 110 years old or 108 years old.
Right.
And again, our family has had a lot to do with it. We were in the founding group. I think it's very important for us as corporate citizens to give a little bit of ourselves and our time to helping business at large and becoming a good conduit between communication between the government, between industry, between other, pressure groups, people who are, today ecology is a big issue. So we work on all these facets and we try and ensure that they understand what we need and we understand what they need.
True.
The result of this is there's much closer communication and I hope better and faster decisions.
Interesting. Let's complete our game now.
Sit down.
Not bad. I never expected it to. Oh, that's a good roll. You can finish it though.
Too much. Getting greedy.
You almost had a lip out there. So do you mix boardroom with fairways quite a bit?
Yeah, I play a reasonable amount now. I sort of get in maybe 2 9-holes and 1 18-hole a week. Early morning though.
Do all the meetings also get shifted onto the golf course?
No.
From the office?
No,
Never has that happened?
Very seldom.
Would you rather in a utopian world expect that to happen?
Not really. I would like to play my golf reasonably seriously, but once in a while, yes. I mean, you have friends who also play golf. I have customers who who come in from overseas, and many of them, like the Japanese, definitely want to play golf.
Yeah.
We have a lot of American suppliers and buyers who come in, and then especially in winters they want to play here because they can't play in Europe or in the US, and so that portion does happen.
So you're a Delhiite. Which one would be your golf course in Delhi? Home course, rather.
As of now, it's the Delhi Golf Club. But
DGC.
Yeah, in
That's
DGC.
where you enjoy.
That's where I play most. But I also play at the Air Force Golf Course. I play at JP. So these would be the three main courses.
Okay. You also, apart from golf, have a great passion for photography as well. So you're revisiting your passion for still photography now.
My eyes light
Who
up
would
on
expect? Who would expect?
My father used to be very interested in photography. My elder brother was very interested in photography. So obviously I got attached to the tail there. I started photography with a single lens camera called a Agfa Click 3.
Right.
That was about as basic as you could get, and that was maybe about 45 years ago. And then about once I started working, I did stop doing photography. But last year we were going to Peru, my wife and I decided that I had to do some serious photography again. And I invested in my first DSLR, and it's been such a treat. It is absolutely fantastic what those cameras can do and what you can do on the computer with them. So I think I've got some of the best photographs subsequently, and I enjoy wildlife photography.
Right.
And I've been able to do that in America, in Africa, and in India, of course, and this time and in South America. So it's been great.
It's nice to hear you juggle between your business, golf, photography, passion. Of course, that comes from a lot of discipline as well, and that's the value that has been imbibed at the Sriram household, isn't it?
Yes, that is always there with us. I think we grow up with that. All of us have, played a sport early in our life, and generally early in the mornings. Whether it was squash or badminton or golf. I, of course, started golf very late. I started when I was about 40, and I've only played it for about 3 years very seriously. But a lot of our other family members played a lot of golf. You must have heard of Dr. Bharatram, who was the doyen of Indian golf. And I think Delhi Golf Club owes its existence to him.
So if Alok Sriram wasn't the Deputy Managing Director of DCM Sriram, what would he be? If not the family business, then what?
Maybe a professional squash player. Well, I used to play a lot of squash, and I had those dreams when I was 17, 18. I was actually a national runners-up in the junior section, in under 18.
Right.
And then, of course, I started working.
All right. So that's quite an interesting mix that you have right there, from being the Deputy Managing Director to an aspirational professional squash player as well, if not the Deputy Managing Director of DCM Sriram. Well, on that note, it's been just indeed a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks,
for me to talk to you on the green. Thank you for joining me on the show. With that, that's a wrap from Alok Sriram and me, Chaiti Narula, on Tea Time. I will see you next week again with another interesting guest on the show. Until then, enjoy the flight of a good drive.